Next up is our panel. And for the panel, I'd like to invite Aaron Nissen. Aaron is Destination Think's Senior Strategic Consultant for the South Pacific market. And he will be moderating the panel, The Shift to Destination Management, Measuring, Affecting, and Improving the Experience while Leading the Industry to Deliver on the Ground. Please welcome Aaron.
Awesome, brilliant. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure this afternoon to moderate this panel. I think you guys are familiar with our speakers who have all had a chance to present once. So I'm just going to invite them out one by one. Frank Cuypers from Visit Flanders. Come out here, Frank.
All right.
Hey, come around. Chris Chambers from Tourism Events Queensland. And Paul Barron from Victoria. Cheeky.
Oh, it's warm.
So you two should not be sitting next to each other. So today's panel, what we want to talk about is the concept of destination management and how destinations need to kind of shift their efforts from just purely marketing to understanding how to improve the customer experiences, working with their industry on things like with Wi-Fi, signage, and how do we just make everything smoother for consumers so that they share the stories and they become the storytellers and do some of the marketing. So I guess from our perspective, this is a core philosophy we have. For each of you guys, maybe starting with you, Paul, is destination management a theme or something that you guys talk about internally, or is it just something that kind of inherently gets happening?
Look, I think the best or the most relevant story from a Victorian perspective is the evolution of regional tourism boards in Victoria. So when I started with Tourism Victoria, regional tourism boards were essentially, they were called campaign committees. They were focused primarily on marketing regions. And over the last decade or so, they've become proper tourism boards. So they get much more interested in a range of things. Rather than just marketing, they run industry education programs, they look into tourism infrastructure, they have representation from local government, they're much better funded. And if I take the example of, say, the High Country region, the Regional Tourism Board, the people who work for the tourism board have almost a mentoring relationship with industry going around. And that's tied in with social and it's tied in with visitor experience. And I know when we were talking earlier about this conversation, that the challenge with people at the state level, we're 100 people. And there are so many visitors that come here. We don't run visitor information centres as the state tourism bodies. We're about 1 million miles away from consumers, but the only place we touch consumers is really through social and the web. But maybe we'll talk more about that soon.
Yeah,
I should
absolutely.
give Chris a
how are you guys
chance, Princess a chance.
Queensland?
I think one of the things that we're really trying to understand is how do we make sure that the industry is working together. So for us, and I'm not sure who referenced it yesterday, but there is, domestically there is healthy competition between the states, but internationally we are very collegiate and we are very collaborative in terms of the marketing that we do internationally, because Australia is not a mono destination. No one's just coming to Sydney, no one's just coming to Melbourne. People are coming to a couple of destinations when they travel all that way. So for us, how do we work with industry at a local level to make sure that the content or the information or the experiences that are produced where the visitors are actually enjoying themselves in destination is finding its way through regional, state, national tourism organisations to a much larger audience. That's where we're finding ourselves trying to spend a little bit more time.
So are you guys changing your resources to I guess, fund the RTOs to then work directly with the industry, or are you?
Not necessarily funding. At the moment, we're working through the development of a statewide digital marketing strategy, and one of the things that we are looking at there is actually developing up a framework, a content framework that will allow us progress content from an operator. We talked about it a lot today, where content from the Northern Territory, as an example, was featured by Tourism Australia. Now that's sort of the holy grail at the moment for tourism operators socially. If they can get their content shared from the operator up through the National Tourism Organisation, who has a significant audience, they are definitely seeing business and benefit out of being shared at that high level. So rather than changing funding, it's how do we develop up the right processes that make sure that Queensland is able to get a much larger share of voice of what Tourism Australia is doing.
Yep, brilliant. Frank, from Flanders, what are you guys doing there from a destination management perspective? And is this a topic that you guys actively discuss?
Yeah, absolutely. It's key for us. When I arrived at Visit Flanders, there were about 6 departments there. So there's one for marketing. They used to call it marketing. It's just promotion. And then there were 5 others. For instance, one was working on accessibility, another department about IT, then another department was involved in social tourism. And we ended now with 2 departments, one for the destination development and one for the destination promotion. So that's a big leap. But what happened when I came in, there was really a fight between the national or the regional DMO, Flanders. And yeah, you have to know there is no such a thing as a Belgian DMO. That's very particular, I know. So it's kind of national DMO, and there was a clash between them and the RTOs in the art cities. Why? Because they didn't produce high standard quality actions. So we had to cooperate. And what I said in my presentation about the management and the design of experience could only be done by, for instance, putting the people of accessibility into the heart of product development. For instance, social tourism, that is something unique, I think. I don't know any other DMO where people are having the right to have a vacation. If you're the needy people of Flanders will be given a vacation by the state. And Tourism Flanders has that role. But it's about Belgian people going on holiday in Belgium. Now they were saying to me, what does that have to do with international marketing? Everything. But again, if you put that in your DNA, the footprint of your DMO and the footprint of your destination, people will see that you care about all these people, and that reflects on the potential consumers, the potential visitors. So I was doing that kind of things. The failure or the mistake that I made is I wanted to speed up everything, and I've learned that you have to slice it in mind pieces and step by step. You can't change it in overnight. So that's actually what we were doing, yeah.
Chris, kind of going back to you, do you guys work with, I guess, other industry groups or government groups in terms of working on delivering better customer service and training your industry to improve the on-the-ground experiences? Because that's kind of outside of the scope of a destination marketing organization. So how are you guys tackling that and working with other stakeholders?
Yes, so interesting case study in Queensland. Up until last June, I think it was, we actually had a couple of people who were digital coaches. It was a role that was basically copied off our friends at Tourism Tasmania, where we had a number of people who would go out and into the industry and sit down with tourism operators across the state, sit down at their kitchen table, sit down in the office and actually help them with whatever the problem was that they were experiencing, whether it was, how do I share content through Facebook, to what's the best booking system for me to use. But our role as an organisation has changed, and that's not one of the core roles for us anymore. There is, within Queensland, the Queensland Tourism Industry Council, which is a separate organisation from TEQ. They have a range of programs that are there to help industry and to lobby for support in this area. What we are seeing more and more, though, is that that the regional tourism organisations are who industry are turning to for that type of support. As an example, up in tropical North Queensland, Kate Duffy, who's their destination director, spends a lot of time working with industries to help them understand the digital ecosystem and where it is that they should be putting their effort. It's definitely one of the questions that we get asked most often by industry is, how do I understand the whole digital space and what role should I be playing there?
Yeah, well, I mean, for years as DMOs, it's always been trying to work with industry to help them understand marketing and do more effective marketing. And that's been, I think, accelerated with social and digital because anybody can do it. You just need time to sit and understand it. But now it seems that businesses who offer an amazing experience and focus on customer service, the business starts to market itself, but you can just amplify it and facilitate and curate. And so it seems like working with industry now, it's like, hey, just run your business and run a kick-ass business and then do a little bit of the social stuff and you can market it. So are you guys seeing that kind of tipping point and that realization where industry where they're like, wow, this is very manageable for us to market?
I think we're starting to see the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's a couple of operators around who understand now that it's not that difficult to do digital marketing if you're running your business really well. And that in fact it's not the business operator who actually needs to be doing marketing for their business. If they are providing a first-class experience and people who are visiting their product are in the rooms, if the rooms are really great or the tour's fantastic, then they're going to be writing, those visitors and those guests are going to be writing reviews on TripAdvisor or sharing content through to social that's going to be telling their family and friends about the destination and about the product and providing sort of the marketing almost for them. We're also starting to see some businesses in Queensland who are understanding what the business opportunity is from social. There's a couple of really switched on operators up in North Queensland who now look at Instagram as a way of generating business for their tours. So they're looking for the backpackers who are swimming by the lagoon in Cairns, seeing that the content's being shared to Instagram and actually jumping into those channels and responding as that tour operator, letting them know that, letting those potential guests know that they've got space available on tours this afternoon. So we are starting to see it. Unfortunately, it's a slow burn at the moment, but as businesses start to understand that there is definitely an opportunity there in social, and it's not somewhere that you are going to have to waste hours of time, that you can do it by spending little bits of time every day there. We'll see more and more businesses start to move that.
Are we kind of past the fear of TripAdvisor and having bad reviews about businesses, or are there still industry members that are still kind of on the fence about that?
That was really an issue in Flanders, They had a whole team of people and they were called inspectors, and they had to inspect the hotel industry, and then they got, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars. We try to change that, so we don't work with inspectors anymore, we work with coaches. And I try to advocate, come on, if I go to a hotel somewhere in the world and the guy has somewhere said I have 8.9 rate appreciation of TripAdvisor, that helps. So why not putting in TripAdvisor or another booking system, booking.com, I don't know, put it in there. So the funny thing is the industry is against it. So we are now in a phase that we don't have inspectors anymore. What we do have is coaches. So they do mystery visits online, digital, and we give reports to these people, and it helps. So we are now coaching, we are helping, we are there not to punish them anymore. We stopped the system of appreciation by the government. It's now open. You can choose, and we write reports. And your problem as a hotel, small hotel, family hotel, you will not be found on the internet. So the coaching system is really helping. We didn't have that much problems in involving the other DMOs, but the first thing we had to do to convince people that digital is really the core of your marketing in 2011, 12, and now 15 was a great symbolic action, If you're Sydney, if you're Paris, if you're New York, it's easy, but if you're Birmingham or Flanders or Lille, it's more difficult. So what we did is a big symbolic action, and we invented 100 bloggers all over the planet for a campaign which was called Flanders is a Festival, and that helped. So there were questions in the parliament about that suspicious consultant, Frank Cuypers, who was amusing himself with all kind of quirky things like street art, comics, and so on. It was not really anymore about the tourism industry. They saw the results, and now there is an agreement. And then the first thing we had to do in the organization, which is for me key, is to enable everyone of the organization, even the secretary of the big boss. First, they all get a smartphone. Very cheap thing, Nokia Windows. We had a deal, operator, and then in return, then I became very popular. And after that, I became very unpopular, but they had to give something in return. Now you have to choose your platform, and you're going to join our conversation. And that's the way, step by step, that we could drag everyone into that social adventure.
Paul, in terms of you guys, how do you guys work with industry to help define like niches and target audiences? Because I think David Wilcox yesterday, his presentation was fabulous, and he was talking about how he's building mountain bike product. So how would you guys get involved with somebody like that to say, hey, we see the opportunity to grow that? Do you just market that, or do you have any development support for that? Or
I guess two things pop into mind immediately. One is, say, for instance, the ski industry in Victoria, and I guess there's nothing special about knowing that it's pretty easy to target people who are interested in ski and do that. That's easy. Perhaps the harder one is more for Melbourne, where the kind of things that we put into our Melbourne-based campaigns, the focus on style, sophistication, culture, art, all of those things, we don't have a voice that's it's other people talking about that is credible. And so, for instance, for us engaging with everybody in that space through the various digital publications that people share online in Melbourne, it's not very upfront, and it's not often about us giving money to them at all, but amplifying those things that people are talking about. Is that kind
that
of...
makes sense. Frank?
Can I stir it up a bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a plan. A man with a plan is always dangerous. So it was a total failure. But when I came into the organization, I thought, wow, now we agree on niche marketing. Why not organizing the whole system around niche marketing? But in my assignment, I had to lead also the international department. So all the people of the offices abroad were on fire, like, oh, he's going to fire us, no jobs anymore abroad. And that was absolutely not the case, but my thoughts were, centralize your marketing, decentralize your sales. You need people on the spot abroad, deal makers, people who are good in sales, public relations, events, and so on. And centralize your marketing because it's social. The internet has no boundaries, has no frontiers. And then I could have an organization with a street art team and a cycling team and a gastronomy team. And then they fall into police or something. That was a bridge too far, because the whole industry is organized in this geographical way.
Right.
Am I wrong? I don't know.
No, I think you're right. Like I kind of see DMOs of having shelf space, and then they have these niche experiences that are their products, and clustering industry around those experiences. And we are kick-ass at mountain biking. This is what the markets for you guys are, and helping them understand international pull, but then also helping them to say, hey, you come from mountain biking, there's all these other experiences, and getting those businesses to work around those clusters.
Absolutely.
Then you're just like a shop retailer, managing your product.
The danger here, Chris, is that you end with a matrix. You have product people, and you still have the marketeers in the offices abroad, and you're doubling everything. So that's a big danger.
It's something that we're working on here in Queensland with the 13 destinations that we've got, 13 different stories to tell, is that we have to identify what is it that each different destination has that will pull visitors into that area. So, for Brisbane, we know it's events, it's the cultural scene that we've got there in North Queensland. It's obviously the Great Barrier Reef and the Indigenous tourism experience. So what we need to look at doing is how do we get the industry in that area to actually rally around those hero experiences, so that we can really demonstrate very clearly what it is that should bring a tourist to that area. It's like the mountain biking example. I know my perception of Margaret River is it's a great place to go and drink Sauvignon Blanc and drive around and have a look at the outback. Well, yesterday was a great way of opening up eyes to that opportunity there. So I think what we need to do, though, then is to work with that industry to identify which are the products, the experiences in those destinations who are best able to deliver the visitor experience on the ground, because ultimately they will be the ones who are best at marketing that destination and bringing people in to enjoy that experience.
Because around experiences, I could imagine that, I mean, Paul, maybe you guys do this, but mountain biking will have a certain draw for certain international markets, but we as DMOs still kind of look at, we're going to go after China, but we're not matching an experience to the Chinese market and saying this is the experience that they want. So if you actually get very niche about it, we should be looking at investing in certain geo markets based on that experience specifically, not as a state holistically. Is that?
But that, I mean, certainly for somewhere like China, China is a complicated market, and
maybe not the best example to use,
but and a really important market for us. And certainly, we segment, and not into hundreds of segments, but just maybe 3 or 4 segments. We think very much about the products that I guess are ready for China. And we position those products, we've got some 300 products we hero on our Chinese language variant that are selected specifically for that market. And what we know, we've done a fair bit of research on the people that come from China, on the people we're wanting to target. And there's quite a bit of work that goes into that, and then quite a bit of work in working with those products. We have, people like Richard Beer, for instance, formerly from Tourism Australia, working with our product around language, culture, all of those sort of things. And the industry really engage with that. And then, of course, you drift into some of the social media aspects of that, and that gets really challenging.
China's probably not the best example, but maybe if we look at the States, mapping, like, say, scuba on the reef, but looking at, where that propensity to come for that specific product, and then working with industry, like, do you guys sit with them and say, look, the scuba diving is really big in the States, it's not big from Japan, so that the industry really sees that and they can customize product to meet a specific market?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got a good understanding now with the different hero experiences that for each destination. We also have a really good understanding of what international source markets are the ones that we're likely to be able to drive visitation from now. And our organisation goals are based around visitor expenditure by 2020. So what we're looking at is where are the international source markets that we're able to, or likely to be able to drive additional visitation from, that's got that good yield over the next 5 years or so, and which ones provide us with the opportunity to actually meet those 2020 targets. So what we're now able to do is look at the hero experiences and the markets and understand, based on the quality of the experience that's being delivered, what are the products that we are best taking into those different markets.
So from there, then, do you measure that experience against that market to get customers or a survey to see what they're saying?
We don't now, but we're currently working on a framework that will allow us to do that. What we're going to be looking at is developing up a defendable solution that we will be able to use data from whatever sources it might be, and we haven't defined that yet, that will show us based on reviews, that will show us based on customer satisfaction reviews in other ways, how those products are delivering against expectations of the visitor. Obviously, TripAdvisor is a ready-made solution for that, but we also want to look at other sources, whether it's other online booking systems and their reviews that they have, or whether it's through some type of an NPS that the operators themselves have to conduct post-visit or post-travel. We also want to look at which operators are more likely to produce content about their own product. So we know that social and digital content is likely to influence other visitors to visit that destination. So if we can work with businesses that are producing high quality content, either by themselves or from visitors, then again, that's a ready-made content source that we can feed into those markets.
Frank, you were going to chime in there?
No, I just wanted to say about the delicate issue of the Chinese people. I don't know how the situation is in Australia, of course. I'm here 3 days. And if it's true that they are going to destroy your beautiful reef, well, if they don't do, your politicians will do that. So that's another story. But in my destination, the situation is different. We have problems, for instance, with Bruges. Bruges is a medieval city of 200,000 citizens. They have more than 6 million visitors there. This is choking the problem of Amsterdam. If you go out to the red light district, you know, the canals and so on, at night it's full of drunken Russian British people. So that is a problem of mass tourism. Now I use the Chinese because they are very complementary to the art cities. They don't care about art cities. They don't care about heritage. It's a totally different segmentation. So the persona of a Chinese tourist coming to Belgium, they want the things that the other tourists don't want. So we had a match there. They want to go to Maasmechelen. Nobody has heard about Maasmechelen. Even in Belgium they don't know Maasmechelen. But it's an outlet shopping mall. The Chinese love it. We have an open air museum where you can disguise yourself. These are guys, 2 parents and a kid, always traveling together. They love it. They can do things there. For Chinese people, Belgium is, yes, you don't believe your ears, a green destination. They love the air, the green, something it's very difficult to promote for us. So it's very complementary. And there they sneak in, the Chinese. So that's the way how we solved it.
So how do you measure that experience from them? Like, how do you gauge their level of satisfaction with the products and services so that you know how much you can penetrate that market with that type of experience? Like, how do you guys measure that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wanted once to introduce the Net Promoter Score in Visit Flanders, but there was the whole research department and they won't investigate what they want to investigate. So they prefer to give lots of money to panel and questionnaires and so around the planet. I'm more about scores that really say something about the psychography of a tourist. So what for me is very important is what we use to track with social mention. The sentiment, the strength, the passion of people, what they're doing on the internet, the satisfaction in Net Promoter Score. But to be honest, I have developed myself an alternative score, conversation value, because the stakeholders want to see a dollar sign or a euro sign in the end. Like they know AVE, advertorial value equivalent. Intellectually, be honest, it's crap. You say that a page in a newspaper of a journalist has the same value if you pay for an ad. People read it different. If you're really passionate about a subject and the journalist touches you, then it's wow.
Yep.
Now, we developed something for blogs as well. And I'm the first to be honest and to say it keeps the stakeholders away from the serious business.
But I think that's...
we don't have a measurement system at the moment, but there is one that exists. I was talking to Damo, who's going up to do his dive up on the Great Barrier Reef, and I said, oh, well, what company are you going out with out of Cairns? And it was like, oh, whatever was #1 on TripAdvisor. Yep. So whether the industry like it or not, there is a system that scores them and drives business regardless.
I think one of the challenges that we have is that ever since the dawn of the DMO, we've always measured in volume, and volume. We need bigger, we need more. And then once your hotels are at 95% occupancy, there's another hotel you got to fill because it gets built. And we're not looking at the quality factor. And I think that's what you're seeing in the consumer generation is now everything is the quality of the experience. And so I think destinations need to shift a little bit more to think about the quality. And I remember last year I did a presentation and Net Promoter's a score, a quality survey. And Broome had the highest Net Promoter Score in all of Australia. I was at 80%, whereas Melbourne, I think, was like 13, and Sydney was around 12, and everybody was like, holy crap. But it's such a specific experience that people, when they go there, it's exactly what they expect, and that starts to manifest in word of mouth, social media. So are you guys looking at the quality factor and trying to push your organization away from pure volume metrics?
Okay, well, look, I think that there's no doubt that Australia is not a cheap place in the world to come. We're never going to be able to compete with destinations but on price. So, and particularly Melbourne, we've always, well, particularly through the Jigsaw campaign, trying to position Melbourne as a premium destination. Now that's easy for the cities. What about the regional parts of Victoria? And that's where you move away from marketing, I guess, and more about trying to create great quality infrastructure. Tourism infrastructure becomes really important in regional areas, and there's a much greater focus on that in Victoria over the last decade.
we know we can't compete on price with the likes of Fiji, Bali and Thailand. If you look at the cost of a beach holiday in Queensland, based on some research that we've got, it indexes around about double the cost of a holiday to Fiji, Thailand, Bali. What we also know is that the cost of a city break hotel, so to someone like Melbourne or Sydney, is around about the same as a city break hotel internationally, So we can't compete on price. So we need our operators delivering fantastic experiences that show that there is a value that is available by holidaying in Queensland through higher experiences that people can have.
Yep. Are there any questions from the audience? And we got one in front.
Hi guys, really interesting chat. Rebecca from C-Link, obviously. I just had a couple of questions here. Firstly, around silos and how you guys deal with that, in that, how do you work to facilitate those relationships, within your organisations as well as, with operators in the different regions, with the regional tourism boards. I've only been in tourism 3 months, but it's an incredibly complicated structure, the way that it is all kind of working. And when you try and say, okay, well, we've got to do it from a consumer perspective, it really turns everything up on its head. So how do you guys go about developing those relationships and then convincing everyone that, we all need to be thinking about Generation C?
At TQ, one of our organisation's strategic drivers is being consumer-led and destination-focused. So our organisation is actually structured around destinations, and in the marketing team, we've got 3 hubs. Each hub looks after a number of destinations across the state. Those hubs include expertise from digital, from brand marketing, from the publicity team, and they also have representatives from finance and other members of the organisation, and those groups get together regularly to talk about what's happening around that destination. Up until the introduction of those, which is around about 18 months, we also experienced similar things. I think what we need to look at doing to break down those silos is to look at opening up the understanding, just in the context of digital, I'm talking now, break down the silos around digital. So some of the things that we did prior to that was empowering the publicity team to be able to post directly to Twitter. We have our international teams have access to tools where they can create their own Facebook posts, and that comes down to the team in Brisbane to review, not for any other reason, really just to review and make sure that it's not clashing with something big that's going out on that day. So starting to empower other members of the organisation certainly has helped us move beyond those silos.
Yeah, well, the same. What is very interesting, I don't know whether anyone knows what a business canvas plan is. It's a very simple technique. It's a business plan light. And the first question, you do that with a focus group, is who is your potential customer? And it's amazing in the tourism industry. 1/3, they are civil servants, will answer immediately. The stakeholders are the RTOs, the cities, the minister, and then they forget something, the potential consumer, the tourist.
Yep.
So there it goes. And so, yeah, I'm aboard, but it starts with strategy. If everyone says, oh no, we are focused, centralized around that potential visitor, then you can start.
Well, I mean, I've been seeing the consumer-centric marketing for years, which I think a lot of organizations say they do, but they don't truly do, because it means that the experience is everything. And if you get the experience right 100%, marketing and everything should flow from that. But like you just said, there's a lot of other stakeholders that everybody's looking at as their clients, and I think the consumer sometimes gets lost in that shuffle of politics and boundaries, et cetera, like that. So I guess what would be kind of, the takeaways for your industry and maybe some of the industry members in terms of what would you recommend that they can best do to, leverage the marketing platforms that you guys are doing? One takeaway, Chris.
I think that we need to find ways of opening up the digital assets of the state and regional tourism organisations to operators. I don't think we do that well enough at the moment. So how do we make sure our operators understand how to get their content featured by the state and regional tourism organisation, but also how do we enable them to target our Facebook connections with their own advertising.
Yep.
Also that idea of unlocking the powerful stories of the destination, which was the very first presentation
So
yesterday.
you guys just want to amplify the
what-
industry stories, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Paul, what about you? What's the takeaway for the industry?
Look, I mean, for us, you know, the importance, I know we've got ATW here, of having our industry all on that platform. Increasingly, you know, in the early days of ATW, just websites like Chris and myself, we were the main place where content was seen. But right now, down to individual tiny destinations, you'll get the local regional tourism authority to make sure all of their product is in that system, and that's reflected right the way through to the state, to the region, the state, and Tourism Australia, and out through that way. So it's a really simple thing, but it's really important.
Yep. Frank, any sound bites for you to end things?
Yeah, maybe it's too basic, but I have learned that it's no use convincing people. So not spreading the gospel, but I learned the trick, and that is showing the people the flip side of something. So there was a big shot of an RTO, and he was shouting, come on, in the end it's all about a poster and a baseline, and that's marketing, it's easy. So he had a campaign and we had a campaign. Ours was social and he was just print billboards. So I did a bit of calculation and I said, if you had used this campaign, I did not say stop advertising, stop printing, that is guru language. If you had used this campaign to launch, this is the potential you don't have developed by not using social. And that made an impression.
Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Team is coming up.